Imagine discovering an ancient, dust-covered manuscript, one that claims to totally bypass the earthly realm and reveal the absolute, unfiltered secrets of heaven itself. We're talking a literal backstage pass to the cosmos. A text that vividly describes fallen angels coming down to earth, and a book that is, shockingly enough, quoted right there in the pages of the New Testament. It's a manuscript detailing towering giants roaming a corrupted world long before Noah's flood, completely packed with terrifying visions of impending judgment. Yet, despite all this cinematic, earth-shattering imagery, most Christians today have never even read it. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of history's most fascinating and honestly most controversial ancient writings out there, the Book of Enoch. Was it deliberately hidden away by religious authorities? Was it flat out rejected as heresy? Or was it just never considered part of the Bible to begin with? We're going to put the myths aside and look strictly at the historical evidence to separate fact from speculation. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The Ancient Mystery. So, to really understand this monumental text, we first need to look at the man it's named after. The Book of Enoch is one of the oldest, most influential surviving Jewish religious writings outside the Bible, and it's traditionally attributed to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah. Now, the historical Enoch actually makes a very brief appearance in the book of Genesis. The text simply says, Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him. That's it. But that one short, highly mysterious sentence has sparked centuries of intense curiosity. I mean, if God took him directly, did Enoch receive some kind of incredible divine revelation beforehand? Did he literally see the architecture of the cosmos? Well, the book bearing his name attempts to answer those exact, staggering questions. But the actual historical reality behind who wrote this text is a wild story on its own. Almost all modern scholars agree that it wasn't actually written by the historical Enoch who walked the ancient earth. Instead, it was put together by several anonymous Jewish authors over a massive span of time, roughly 300 years, from the 3rd century BC all the way down to the 1st century BC. These writers essentially wove multiple different traditions, visions, and ancient oral histories into one epic, sprawling text. Section 2, Angels, Giants, and Corruption. So, what exactly is inside this ancient text that makes it so incredibly legendary? The Book of Enoch dramatically expands on a mysterious and heavily debated passage from Genesis chapter 6. It's the one describing the sons of God taking human wives. Well, Enoch identifies these beings as the Watchers. Picture this scene. Led by rogue angels like Shemihaza and Azel, a group of these celestial watchers physically descend to earth. They make pacts, they marry human women, and their offspring become the Nephilim. These were massive giants of terrifying strength who just began consuming everything humanity produced. And ultimately, this unnatural union and all the chaos it caused leads directly to God's ultimate judgment and the Great Flood. But hold on, because before the floodwaters even rise, things get truly wild. The text claims these fallen angels purposefully taught humanity forbidden, heavenly knowledge. They introduced the dark arts of weapon making, teaching us how to turn simple metals into swords and shields. They taught occult practices, complex astrology for reading the stars, and even the creation of cosmetics and dyes. According to Enoch, these specific, forbidden skills fueled widespread corruption, vanity, and violence across the globe, eventually forcing God to imprison the fallen angels in darkness. These are incredibly dramatic, cinematic themes, and they profoundly shaped how the ancient world imagined the supernatural. Which brings us to a massive historical plot twist. Section 3. The New Testament Connection. One of the main reasons this ancient book gets so much attention today is because it actually appears to be directly referenced in the New Testament. The clearest, absolutely undeniable example is the letter of Jude. Jude literally quotes a prophecy attributed to Enoch about the Lord coming with countless holy ones to execute cosmic judgment. And the crazy part? The quote found in Jude matches the exact wording in 1 Enoch almost word for word. Plus, the New Testament letters of 2 Peter and Jude also talk about angels who sinned and were kept in chains in the gloomy darkness until Judgment Day. That language heavily, undeniably echoes the specific lore that was established in the Book of Enoch. So a crucial question naturally comes up here. If a text is quoted in the Bible, does that automatically make it scripture? Well, not necessarily. Historians point out that ancient writers often quoted respected popular literature of their day to make a specific theological point, but without actually treating the whole source text as divinely inspired. It's a practice known as intertextuality. In the ancient world, quoting a text was just a really common way to engage with a well-known cultural idea. So just because Jude quoted a true prophecy from Enoch to make his point, that doesn't necessarily mean first-century Christians viewed the entire Book of Enoch on the exact same level as the Torah or the prophets. And that perfectly sets up our next major question, Section 4, excluded from the Bible. If this text was so deeply influential, why in the world was it left out of most modern Bibles? Let's trace the historical timeline. The story of how this book survived and was later discovered is just incredible. We know for an absolute fact that the Book of Enoch was widely revered among many Jewish groups long before the time of Jesus. And how do we know that? Because multiple fragments of the book were discovered among the famous Dead Sea Scrolls, hidden away in those dark, arid desert caves at Qumran. This was a monumental archaeological find in the 20th century, and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the text was being meticulously copied, studied, and preserved centuries before Christianity even began spreading across the Roman Empire. However, the process of canonization, deciding what officially goes into the Bible, was slow and highly debated. It took centuries. It wasn't just some sudden, overnight decree. It was a gradual sorting of texts over generations. Over time, mainstream Jewish communities ultimately decided not to include it in their official, finalized Hebrew Bible. And later on, as the Christian biblical canon was gradually taking shape, most early church leaders simply followed the books that were already accepted within that mainstream Jewish tradition. So, as a direct ripple effect of that entire historical process, the Book of Enoch was naturally excluded from the canon of most Christian traditions, essentially relegated to the margins of history. But, history is never quite that simple. There is one major, absolutely fascinating exception. Section 5, the Ethiopian exception. While the text faded from prominence and was almost completely lost in Europe and the Middle East, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church took a totally different path. To this very day, this ancient, vibrant Christian tradition continues to recognize 1 Enoch as official canonical scripture. They literally read it right alongside Genesis, the Psalms, and the Gospels, and they treat its prophecies and visions with the utmost spiritual authority. And honestly, modern historians and archaeologists are incredibly grateful that they did. Because this church valued it so highly, the book was meticulously preserved and copied generation after generation in the ancient Ge'ez language. This dedicated linguistic preservation is the only reason the complete Book of Enoch survived entirely intact in the highlands of Ethiopia, successfully safeguarding a priceless piece of ancient history that had practically vanished from the rest of the world. So where does that leave us today? Section 6, fact versus speculation. Whenever we're dealing with ancient, highly debated texts like this, it is absolutely vital to separate the hard historical proof from the ongoing theological arguments. Let's look at the established evidence first. We know as a hard historical fact that it is an authentic, ancient Jewish work that's definitively proven by the Dead Sea Scrolls. We know the Book of Jude contains a quotation matching it perfectly, and we know the Ethiopian Orthodox Church canonizes it. But the theological debates, those are still raging fiercely today. Scholars and theologians argue endlessly over whether the sons of God mentioned in Genesis were actual supernatural angels or if they were simply ancient human kings. They hotly debate whether the Nephilim were literal physical giants of immense height, and whether Enoch's detailed heavenly journeys reflect historical events, or if they're purely symbolic, apocalyptic visions designed to carry a moral message. Now, we aren't here to declare which theological side is right, but rather to show you exactly where those lines of debate are drawn. Regardless of where you land on those intense theological debates, modern historians view the Book of Enoch as an extraordinary window into Jewish beliefs during the Second Temple period. Even scholars who absolutely do not consider it to be inspired scripture readily recognize that its vivid descriptions of angels, final judgment, the architecture of heaven, and the origins of ancient evil are utterly vital. You simply cannot fully understand the cultural, religious, and historical world in which the New Testament was written without understanding the immense shadow cast by the Book of Enoch. Which brings us to our ultimate takeaway. The Book of Enoch remains one of the most fascinating ancient religious writings ever discovered by humanity. Its influence on religious traditions, academic research, and even modern pop culture is completely undeniable. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't why the Book of Enoch exists, but rather why such a massively influential piece of human history remains so little understood by the general public today. So I want to turn it over to you. What do you think? After looking at the history and all the evidence we've covered today, should the Book of Enoch be studied primarily as a crucial historical document, or should it be regarded as inspired scripture? Share your thoughts down in the comments. I'd genuinely love to read them. And if you enjoyed this clear, evidence-based explainer diving into ancient mysteries, biblical history, and archaeology, make sure you hit subscribe. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next one.